Welcome to my 17,000 subscribers special video. It seems like not too long ago that I was doing my 16,000 subscribers special video. Thank you all so much for liking, subscribing, sharing, and doing all that other fun stuff. I'm sure it won't be long until I'm at 18,000. So this part of the video is going to be pretty short. For the Q&A, the same rules apply as last time. Please subscribe. Since some people like to keep their subscriptions set to private, I'm not going to make it mandatory or force people to change them to public if they don't want to. I simply request that if you ask a question, please subscribe. The second rule is only one question per person, please. I want to try and get to as many people as possible. So if you ask more than one question, I'll either take your first one, or pick whichever one I like the best, or wasn't asked by someone else. And finally, please use the hashtag AskUltra17K to help me find your questions. You can make your question as part of your comment, or do a separate comment for your question. Just make sure to use that hashtag to help me find your question. That's all. That's it for the Q&A portion of this video. So ask your questions down in the comments of this video, and hopefully I'll get to answering them by the time I'm at 18K. Now for the main chunk of this video. But before that, I have to change. You like? I know, it's a new look for me, so my expressions are kind of limited for now. I actually wanted to use this as my Halloween costume for my Halloween special this year, but I just ended up being so busy that I simply just didn't have time to do one this year. Who knows? Maybe next year I will. And maybe I'll even be able to dress up my human avatar in a cute Halloween costume of her own. Besides, I thought I'd give you a preview of my human avatar for if or when a non-Transformers show happens to win the vote for the next series that I'll review. Speaking of which, with me finishing my Transformers animated reviews, it's time to pick a new series to review. I've thought long and hard about which series I'd like to do next, and so I've come up with a list of 16 nominees. Let's start off with the actual Transformers series, then the Transformers related series, and then the non-Transformers ones. First is the one that I suspect will win this competition. Transformers Animated. I already did Transformers Animated. Transformers Armada. I'm sure I have a lot of viewers who love the Unicron trilogy, so I wouldn't be surprised if Armada wins. And of course, after Armada, I'd review Energon and then Cybertron. And I shouldn't have to explain Armada to you. You know what the show is about. The Autobots and Decepticons battling over and collecting Minicons. Plus, this show shares much of its cast with Beast Wars. Gary Chalk, David Kaye, Scott McNeil, Doug Parker. This definitely seems like the most logical choice to win.
I hate watching this.
Next, we have Robots in Disguise, the original 2001 version. It's a really fun series, full of great and memorable characters. And like I mentioned in my 16K video, or at least one of them, you'd hear some familiar voices in this show.
You guys just made a big mistake. You're messing with the wrong crowd. Wars, transform!
Next up is Headmasters. I was planning on covering the Takara trilogy after G1, but between the recent HasLab Starsaber, the new Masterpiece Raiden announced, and friend of the channel Protoman of the Transformers Slag podcast recommending it, I can't wait to review this trilogy. So vote for it if you want to see me review it early. And finally, the last Transformers one is not a series of reviews of a Transformers show, but is instead a weekly comic book review series. A couple years ago, I did start doing Transformers comic book reviews under a series titled Transformers Book Club, mainly as an excuse for me to get caught up on the IDW comics at the time. The idea being that you'd read the comics on your own beforehand, I'd review it, and then you can tell me what you thought of this issue or volume in the comments. I stopped doing that series of reviews just because it was so labor intensive compared to the other videos I was doing at the time, and it wasn't getting as many views as the other videos at that time. But a lot of you seem to want comic book reviews, so maybe that's what you might vote for. Whether I'd start up where I left off, or move on to a different phase like the one with the Lost Light and stuff that everyone seems to love, maybe cover some key comics like The Last Stand of the Wreckers, or I could just start with the new rebooted comics. We can decide on that later if or when the comic book reviews wins. And then I'll let you guys suggest where to start, because I'm really behind on them. I've actually started watching some, I guess they're called dubs, basically where they voice over the comic. I've been watching some of those kinds of videos on YouTube when I get a chance, just as a way to refresh myself on them. Some of the voice actors they have do a great job too. It's so cute hearing the characters talk with Zelda music in the background and stuff. Aww, I just love it. It's like a combination of some of my favorite things. By the way, shout out to Reeves Nemesis and all the talented voiceover artists that work on those videos. Check them out, they're pretty good. Now let's move on to the Transformers related series. Starting off with the last minute entry to this list, Brave Police J. Decker. For those who don't know, while the original Transformers series died in the West, it continued to live on in Japan with Headmasters, Master Force, Victory, and ultimately Zone. After that, Takara continued to make transforming robot anime, but they ditched the Transformers name and lore, and basically started their own transforming mecha franchise, which collectively became known as Brave. One of the shows under this sister series franchise to Transformers was Brave Police J. Decker, a show which I honestly haven't watched completely, but I know it contains my boy Shadowmaru, who is actually a repaint and remold of Six Shot. The Brave series reused a few Transformers molds for their own characters. Plus, this show looks pretty fun. I mean, just look at Drill Boy. He's so adorable. Why does he have a soccer ball for a titty? I don't know, but I can't wait to find out.
ありがとう。
Next, we have Robotech, otherwise known as Macross. Robotech was the line that the original G1 Jetfire toy came from. And in the years after, Harmony Gold, the company that owns the rights to Robotech in the West, has occasionally gone to battle against Hasbro over Jetfire and his likeness to their Veritech Valkyrie fighter. It's been a while since I've watched Robotech, but I recall it being a bit of a weird anime, which may lend itself well to reviews. And I haven't seen much of the other series that follow it, but if Robotech is picked, and the Macross saga does well, I'd be interested in reviewing the other two.
What? A male and female touching lips? Can't be! It's impossible! I can't watch anymore! Turn off the monitor!
Easily the most recent series on this list is SSSS Gridman. I used to watch the original Western version of this show. Well, they're not the exact same show, but they're related. Superhuman Samurai Cyber Squad. Yes, they spelled cyber with an S just for the alliteration. It was an adaptation of the tokusatsu Gridman, and it's where the SSSS in SSSS Gridman comes from. Boy, that's a lot of S's. But yes, I used to watch that version of the show back when Power Rangers was blowing up, and everybody tried to capitalize on its popularity by making their own teenagers becoming giant robots and fighting monsters type of show. I actually haven't watched much of the new SSSS Gridman anime, if anything. And some of you may be wondering, how is this show related to Transformers? That is because a lot of the character designs in this show, if not all of them, are actually based on Transformers. Specifically, for the most part, shattered glass Transformers. Yes, that's right. The main character, Yuta Hibiki, is based on Classic's Cliffjumper, who played a major role in the original Shattered Glass comics and fiction. Yuta's shoes look like Cliffjumper's car mode. His backpack looks like Cliffjumper's jetpack. Even his cute little hair tufts look like Cliffjumper's horns. His friend, Sho Utsumi, is based on Shattered Glass Sideswipe, with a similar color scheme, the 8 on his shirt having a slash across it, just like Sideswipe's former Autobot logo. Even his shoes being green with stripes, which may otherwise look like normal Adidas shoes, or Adidas, however you want to pronounce it, but they are probably a reference to Sideswipe's lower legs in robot mode. I mean, I could keep going forever. It seems like every character in this show is based on a Transformer. Like, just guess who this girl is based on. This show looks so cute! And I can see it being a lot of fun to point out all the different Transformers references hidden in this anime.
Wow, how wonderful. Are you going to the pool?
It's for a field trip. Apparently my class is gonna go rafting.
And the last show that I can say is even remotely related to Transformers, but honestly not really, is Reboot. You've heard me mention Reboot in my reviews before. It's a great show. And it's also animated by Mainframe, the same company that did Beast Wars. And it has some of the same voice actors here or there.
I am become Gigabyte, destroyer of systems.
They share some of the same music. Honestly, it's really weird when you're watching both of these shows and you hear the same music used in both. And I wouldn't be surprised if there was more than that reused between these two shows. But yeah, there's not really any strong ties between these two cartoons. Just know that Reboot is an awesome show, and well worth watching on its own.
Oh no.
Next, we have the totally unrelated to Transformers shows. Starting with one that also shares some voice actors with Transformers, Cyber 6. A personal favorite of mine. This was, sadly, a very limited series that ends on a cliffhanger. But it's a beautifully animated and unique looking show. It's about our titular hero, Cyber 6, sexy female superhero by night. But when she's not stopping Nazis, yes, literal Nazis, she is posing as a male schoolteacher by day. Yes, there's some genderqueer stuff going on in this show, and I am here for it. Plus, like I mentioned, this show was voiced by the Ocean Group, meaning you hear some familiar voices in the cast, such as Kathy Westlock, who, to be fair, only had a small, uncredited role in Transformers Armada.
You've been watching too much TV. Besides, everyone knows the red robots are always the good guys.
Okay!
But maybe you know her better as Spike in My Little Pony.
Hey, Pony Joe, another donut.
Don't you think you've had enough?
Another donut! Extra sprinkles!
She plays the titular character Cyber 6/Adrian.
You're not from the city, are you?
Oh, a small village. Can I ask you, I've got, this student.
Oh, Lori.
Please give me the vial. It's mine.
Vial?
You must have it.
What are you? What do you want?
The vial.
Or there's Michael Dobson, who plays Cyber 6's love interest /Adrian's best friend and colleague, Lucas.
Come on, you must have been dreaming.
Haven't got the imagination. Then it evaporated. Poof! I never seen anything like it.
Who you may know better as the voice of Starscream in Armada, Energon, and Cybertron.
I don't need your sympathy. Now leave me alone. Even the minicons have abandoned me now.
So, if you want to watch a show about a genderqueer schoolteacher who's in love with Armada Starscream, this is the show for you. Why does that sound familiar?
Adrian!
Maybe you should give it to her.
No.
The next one is Cowboy Bebop. I've recently started watching this series, and I must say it is amazing. It definitely lives up to the hype. I'm sorry I waited so long to check it out. This show is just fantastic, and I'd love to review it with you all. Plus, there's that live action version coming. When is that set to release anyways? Of this year? What? That's literally the day after my birthday. Well, anyways, from what I've seen of the anime so far, it's terrific. And it'll be great timing to review that at the same time as the new live action one comes out on Netflix. Who knows? It might boost my viewership. Search engine optimization, synergy, that kind of stuff. I also love this show's LGBTQ+ representation. It seems like it was way ahead of its time. For the most part.
Hey, you're a girl!
I really want to talk about them, but there might be some parts that I obviously can't show on YouTube because of some brief nudity and some adult situations. And that's in addition to the occasional blood and violence. But this is a wonderful show, and I highly suggest checking it out if you're old enough. Oh, and did I mention that Steve Bloom, the voice of Heatwave in Rescue Bots, Starscream in Transformers Prime, and Wars in Robots in Disguise, voices the main character, Spike Spiegel? So yeah, there's that too.
I am starving. So you're hungry too, huh, baby?
But speaking of amazing cartoons with queer undertones, there's another animated series on this list that's very near and dear to my heart. XMen, the animated series. Before there was the Marvel Cinematic Universe, there was the Marvel Animated Universe, consisting of various cartoons which all share the same continuity. And we'd start with X-Men. If it does well, then we'd probably move on to some of the other ones. But let me tell you, the X-Men and Spider-Man cartoons in the 90s, those were my thing. That's what made me fall in love with Marvel and these characters. These are my definitive versions of these characters. I mean, I can't wait to talk about that one episode of Spider-Man that still makes me cry just thinking about it to this day. Aw, I'm getting weepy right now. But obviously we'd have a lot of other episodes and cartoons before we get to that one.
What are we all waiting for? Invitations?
I got invitations right here. Enough for everybody.
Okay, let's move on to the next one. So, speaking of great 90s animated series, we have the one that coined the term the animated series in the first place. Yes, that's right. He is Vengeance. He is the Knight. He is Batman, the animated series. Say what you want about DC's attempts to make their own cinematic universe, or any of the other DC films before that. But Batman, the animated series, that is my Batman. You can argue about who was better: Michael Keaton, George Clooney, Adam West, Ben Affleck, Robert Pattinson, whoever. No, the best Batman was and always will be Kevin Conroy. Not to mention Mark Hamill as Joker. Luke who? Star what? No, to me, when I think Mark Hamill, I think the Joker. And vice versa. The Marvel Animated Universe was great, but the DC Animated Universe was better. And if Batman were to win the vote, much like X-Men and the rest of Marvel, I'd want to review Superman, Justice League, Static Shock, Batman Beyond, all that stuff too. If Batman does well, which I imagine it would. So if you want me to review all of the DC Animated Universe, vote for Batman. And then watch the reviews, of course. And yes, I'd cover the movies too. In fact, I might start off with Mask of the Phantasm, since that does take place before the actual animated series.
Batman.
On a related note, we have another personal favorite of mine, Disney's Gargoyles. If you want me to review a Disney series, this is it. Definitely inspired by Batman the Animated Series' success, Disney made their own darker and more mature cartoon. And it was absolutely amazing. I cannot speak highly enough about this show, or its incredible voice cast. I mean, Keith David as Goliath? Wow. Not to mention all the Star Trek cast members who part-timed on this show, among an array of other incredible guest voices. You are doing yourself a disservice if you have not watched this show. I mean, I love this show so much that it was the subject of my first ever review and top 10 video. Not a Transformers show, Gargoyles. So go and watch that video if you want to learn more. Not to mention, there are some Transformers alumni in that show as well.
These guys are all right. Oh, yeah, wouldn't it be great to meet them?
Well, show's over and I'm starved. Let's go.
Now we're getting to one of the two really heavy hitters on this list. The ones that I think might actually knock out the Transformers series and could potentially win this thing. First of which is Avatar: The Last Airbender. I love Avatar. You love Avatar. I've used this joke countless times in my videos. Secret tunnel! Secret tunnel! So, I mean, do I really have to go over Avatar? The 4 nations, the 4 elements, Aang, the young Avatar who must master all 4 and unite the world? We know! The show is amazing! It should be on every greatest cartoons of all time list ever. What else is there to say other than that if it wins, and it does well, then, much like other shows I've mentioned, I would of course want to do The Legend of Korra after it. I haven't watched all of Korra yet. I think I still have the last half of the last season to go through, but from what I've seen of it so far, I like it for the most part. I like the industrialized look of the show. It demonstrates that technology has advanced since Aang's time. Some of the spiritual stuff and closing off from the past avatars and messing with the avatar cycle I didn't like. But overall, it's a pretty good show.
Avatar's Day! Yep!
Next, we have our other big gun, or should I say water gun, because now we're onto Pokemon, the long-running anime with the adorable little pocket monsters. Of course, like I mentioned in my 16K video, reviewing Pokemon would be tricky because of just how many episodes there are. It would take a lifetime just to watch them all, not to mention reviewing them all. So we'd do just the first season or so. And if the reviews are well received, I'll continue reviewing with whatever the next season is. The Orange Islands, Johto, etc. Again, this would be a fun one to do, partly because of all the cute Pokemon, and partly because of all the fabulous cross-dressing. And if I did review Pokemon, I would definitely try to figure out a way to review those lost or banned episodes, especially the one where James has boobs. Tell me, James, what's your secret?
That doesn't sound very ladylike.
You'll give away your secret. Go on, try it.
Try it.
I'll show those meanies!
And finally, the last series I've nominated is not a series at all. Well, not in the traditional sense, but is instead a series of movie reviews. Maybe I'll use this as an excuse to finally review the live-action Transformers movies. Maybe I'll review Back to the Future for 3 weeks in a row. Maybe I'll review the Marvel movies, or Star Wars. But more likely, I'd just pick a random movie that I'd want to talk about and make a review about that. Although, maybe once the world gets back to normal, eventually, and I actually feel safe going to the cinema, I might review whatever new movies are out that week. If there's one I feel like paying the extortionary movie ticket prices they charge here in Canada. So there you have it. My 16 nominations for the next series that I'll review. You can go to the community section of my channel right now to vote on each matchup in this first round. Next week, the winners will be selected and go on to the quarterfinals. Then the next round will be the semifinals, and then the finals after that. And after another week, the final winner will be chosen, and that will be the next series I'll review.